Cristiano
on.
Intelectual.
Oh my gosh.
Was that bad?
No, that was good.
Hey everybody, your buddy Basil here, and you are listening to the Joyspiracy Theory. That's right. I'm super excited for this one. I think you guys should be too. In this conversation, I talked to Carolina, who is from Puerto Rico. That's right, we're getting international here. Well, kind of. I don't know. We're all going to learn a lot about Puerto Rico and the United States and what exactly is going on between them. But she's got an awesome story talking about her experiences with yoga and growing. Oh, and we talk about the recent natural disaster in Puerto Rico. That's very interesting. All sorts of stuff. You guys are going to like it so much. But before we do that, I just want to remind everybody you can head to facebook.com/group/ No, not /groups. Facebook.com/ The Joyspiracy Theory there. You can also head to thejoyspiracytheory.com. Leave me a voicemail message there. There's a little tab on the right-hand side. Actually, the voicemail that you heard on the last episode, that was Carolina. And she leaves a voicemail message and is suddenly on the show. So there you go. That's one good way to let me know you want to come on the show. Otherwise, if you want to come on the show, you can email me at basil.rosewater@gmail.com or thejoyspiracytheory@gmail.com. Go ahead and do that. Okay, I want to thank all my Patreon supporters, and for people who are thinking about being a Patreon supporter, just so you know, I'm getting ready, working on a couple of bonus episodes to be available for the Patreon supporters over there. Got another Ask Baz in the wings. Also, a very special bonus episode where Jen from episode 21 or 23, I can't remember. I'm going off the top of my head here. Jen actually interviews me, and she does a great job of emulating my style of interview. So if you're interested in hearing that, you get to learn a lot about me, a lot about stuff that usually I don't get the opportunity to talk about. Head over to patreon.com/thejoyspiracytheory and support the project there. And keep a lookout, because I've got some things in the works. Anyways, let's talk to Carolina. This is going to be very fun. Everybody strap on in. Let's see, am I missing anything? Nope. Okay, let's jump right into it, everybody. Okay, hold on to your butts. Here we go.
Hello.
Hello, you kept me waiting on that one.
Basil Rosewater is calling me, and I'm excited. Yay.
Good. We got you on the line. We're good. This is Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
Am I saying that correctly? Do I need to say it cooler?
No. That's exactly right. Thank God, because some people call me Carolina. That just makes me angry, you know?
Yeah. Carolina, that's going to be the Midwestern version.
Yeah, and it doesn't work.
But you are not from
Not for me.
You're not in the Midwest. Where are you?
I'm in the Caribbean. I'm in a little island called Puerto Rico.
Woo!
And yeah, our language here is actually Spanish. So if I get a little, la 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 with the tongue, it's just that I don't speak English all day. So gets a little tricky sometimes.
That's so fun. That's what makes this show so fun, is I'll talk to somebody from Texas or Missouri or something like that. Now we got the island vibes on this episode. Ooh, and along with the island vibes,
yes.
Along with the island vibes, we also have.
Do you ever been to an island?
We have the island internet connection as well, but we're gonna push through. We're gonna make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Were you asking if I had been to Puerto Rico before?
Yes. Have you?
Oh yeah. Oh, I've been to Puerto Rico.
Really?
Yes, I have been to Puerto Rico. I went full on tourist and I did all sorts of touristy things. It was awesome. Very fun place at the time. Although it's had a little bit of trouble recently.
Because we all thought we were gonna die. We had no phone connection, no internet, no anything for like a couple of maybe like a month. Then some phones started working, and everybody was just worried that we all disappeared.
Oh,
But we're
no.
fine. And actually, the Harvard University did a study recently, and it turns out that more than 4,000 people died because of the hurricane. So it's pretty bad. It's actually higher than
that.
Yeah, higher than the 9/11 casualties and Hurricane Katrina. So it's bad, and we're still trying to to get back up.
Rebuild,
but we're getting there.
Get your feet back under you. Yeah, that's crazy. I saw that same study, and I mean, we just who had any idea? That's crazy. And to think you went without internet for a whole month.
Yeah, everybody was just so worried. My best friend is in Texas, and she thought, she was like, "Oh my gosh, she's dead."
Oh no.
But I found a way to get through to her.
Oh, well, good. Well, you certainly belong on this show. Anybody who is on this show or pretty much even listens to this show has some like very strong tie to Texas, I've decided.
I guess so, yeah. I love Texas.
Hey, we all love Texas around here. You hear that, Texas?
Yeah.
So okay. Well, so were you born in Puerto Rico? How did that happen?
Yeah, I was born here, and raised.
You don't need to tell me how the birth happened, but yes, so you were born and raised.
I'm like, what do you want to know exactly?
We get real deep on this show.
I'm like, oh my God, Basil, I'm just a little uncomfortable right now.
So, okay, I was
born and raised.
Okay, very good. I'm gonna try my best. You sound you sound a little younger. Maybe I'm gonna say late 20s, maybe. Say something like, Dad, you just don't understand Facebook.
Do you want me to say it? Okay,
yeah, you
Dad.
have to...
But you don't want me to say it like in Spanish?
Oh, yeah, say it in Spanish. That'll help me figure it out. I'm trying to pinpoint your exact age.
Okay, so you're actually, it is late 20s, so you're going in the right direction.
Okay.
I'm going to say it in Spanish, okay?
Okay.
Papi, tú no entiendes Facebook, okay?
That was very good. I'm gonna guess 27.
Oh, that is so kind of you.
Was that good?
No, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're very close. I'm gonna be 29 in October, so.
Oh, there you go. Good. See, I'm pretty close. I mean, there weren't a whole lot of numbers for me to really mess up on there, so that was a pretty safe bet on my part.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad to know that I sound my age.
Yes, you do. You sound your age. Don't worry. I talked to a lot of people over the internets. You got one of those young voices. So born and raised in Puerto Rico, lived through the recent ordeal. But before that, before we hit this new post-hurricane Puerto Rico, what is it like living on an island paradise?
It's actually pretty amazing. I mean, we have a lot of beautiful places and forests and a lot of beaches, and everything is very, very beautiful. Although we have a very complicated political system. We are a Commonwealth of the United States, and that is actually very complicated. So that part is actually not so nice. Other than that, we are very, very happy people, and we're very kind. Most of us, unlike some people believe, don't speak any English, even though we spent like 12 years studying it at school,
Oh my
because
goodness.
at one time it was actually the official language was actually English, which is laughable because we're like, we don't speak English. I mean, I do, but most of the people don't. So, because we've always wanted to be a part of the United States. I can tell you that's never going to happen, but that's a story for another day.
Well, see, that's all very curious because, yeah, we are kind of, well, we're led to believe that Puerto Rico is just as much as a part of the United States, and I'm not here to make this show all about politics, but I'm very curious from somebody who's a native over there. You called the political system very complicated. Now, we already consider our American politics to be very complicated, so anything more than that is probably just complete gibberish to us. But what does it mean to be a Commonwealth of the United States?
Well, it is actually like an association with the U.S. The way it works is actually we have like the Constitution of the United States is our main, it goes first. And then our Constitution goes below yours. And then so we have a governor, and we're U.S. citizens, but we cannot vote for the president. So being a Commonwealth is a unique political system that was just made up for the island, and it was made up by a former governor, like in the 50s. And it doesn't work anymore. And I can tell you, I mean, maybe like some people will hear me and be angry, but we're actually one of the last colonies. That's what it means to be a Commonwealth of the U.S.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, here in the U.S., we have a long, complicated history with England. And so we always, whenever we think of colonies, it's always England. And, of course, we were once colonies, but then we stopped being colonies because we're too cool for you, England. And then, but yeah, I mean, the Puerto Ricans are basically living as colonists for the United States.
Yeah, basically. I mean, if you ask anybody, everybody's going to be like, no, that's not how it works. But I mean, that's what it is.
So now, I mean, oh man, I'm sure a lot of the more complicated details I could get on a Wikipedia page. But as a Puerto Rican, do you think of yourself as foundationally American?
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, we don't share the culture. We're very different from the U.S. I mean, I'm sure if you and I got together, we would differ in a lot of things, in the way we eat, in the way we, I don't know, listen to music, in the way we gather or with our families or do Christmas. It's just so different. The pep parties, it's religion is actually very different. Puerto Rico is very Catholic, and so no, and just the fact that people here do not speak the language, it's like, and we're not able to vote for the president. So no, I don't feel like I'm an American.
Right. And that's a big part of it. That's a good point. If you're not even able to vote for the president, how are you supposed to feel, on equal ground with somebody else as far as being, quote, an American goes? I mean, that's like the most American thing that you can even think of besides apple pie.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's very
and
interesting.
We don't eat apple pie.
No apple pie in Puerto Rico, huh?
I mean, we have some, but it's
maybe some
from Burger King, and it's really bad.
Empanadas or something. Okay, so that's very interesting. Well, so if just to feel it out a little bit more, would people want to be more American? I mean, do they want to maybe be recognized more as a state, or are they just fine doing their own thing?
Most of the island actually does want to become a state. That is actually something that has been proven
Ah,
throughout the elections and everything. But as you know, well, the powers that be will never allow that to happen. We don't share the same core values as the America, the US. So
right. You did just call fast food apple pie, not real apple pie. I mean, come
I
on.
know they're never gonna accept that. They're like, you infidel. And I'm like, oh.
Well, that's funny. So, okay. So now I'm very curious about what it's like to grow up as a young child in Puerto Rico, America's favorite colony.
Oh, that is actually so. That sounds cute and everything. Okay, so
Okay. But incredibly insulting.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I've never heard that before. It's so great. I'm gonna use it from now on. Okay, so I was born. I mean, it's very hot here. It's like we're very close to hell. I mean, I know that might upset some people. It's really hot. So,
Uh-huh.
I was a normal child with a very nice mom and dad. Dad was always working, and mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Uh-huh.
And I have three brothers, and they're in their 40s, just because my mom thought it would be fun to have a baby at 42. So
Oh,
here I am.
wow.
I mean, she thought she had menopause, but she
She,
went to the
but
doctor.
she was mistaken.
Yeah, the doctor was like, "No, honey, you're pregnant." And she was kind of upset because she was like, "I'm so old. I don't want to, have
Yeah,
another
she
baby."
is going to turn 60 by the time you're moving out of the house.
Yeah, I mean, she's 72 right now,
Wow.
so she's very, yeah, she is pretty old. So, my three brothers, um, were a handful. They were very, I mean, they're just guys. You're a guy, Basil. You understand.
Yeah,
You're
I
three
sure
guys
am a
together
handful.
with a poor 5 feet 5 feet 2 inches mom, and they were very, 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 very interesting little children, and they grew up to be very interesting adults. I mean, I have one brother that was a drug addict, and two of them went to jail. So
Oh.
when I came along, my mom was actually pretty busy with the guys. So I pretty much, TV raised me. And that's actually how I learned to speak English, because my mom would be like, okay, you go to school and then you come here and I'm going to sit you in front of the TV with a direct TV and so some closed captions, and you're going to learn to speak another language, because my parents
Wow.
do not speak English. Nobody in my family does. And then, so I was a very lonely child. I mean, that sounds sad, but it's actually a good thing when you're an introvert. So I was in my
Sure.
room, listening to music and doing my own thing, and having a lot of friends, listening to rock, and just turning my back on God.
Oh, troublesome
Yeah.
child.
I mean, I was actually I was pretty good for, considering the circumstances. My family was Catholic, and I went to church until I was 14.
Uh-huh.
But I wasn't, I'm like, what am I doing here? I was bored. I didn't get anything. I didn't feel like I was getting to know the Lord. Um, so I actually developed this aversion to the church, and when somebody mentioned Jesus, I was like, oh, what is that? Stop it. So I wasn't having it. I
Yeah.
listen to any Christian music because it bothered me, and I was just very, very, godless. And in a sense, I was like a little dog. I was getting up, I was going to bed, and not acknowledging that there was a higher power, even though my parents tried. But they were like, very, very religious and very, like the Pharisees. They were just trying to impose some rules.
Yeah, so you weren't
That
buying the Catholic thing. It just wasn't quite connecting with you.
No, I mean it was creepy because they had the whole the statues and the Christ crucified with the blood, and I'm like, that is so sad. I don't want to look at that.
And
I don't want
everybody's
to.
looking pretty sad in those statues.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
I have yet to see a Catholic statue that just had somebody who looked like they were really stoked to be there.
I know. I don't think it exists. I mean, and it's everything so gloomy and so there's no joy and there's no. I mean, if you know God and you know what Jesus did for you, that's a reason to be joyful, right?
It's a party.
Um, and another thing, I was not at that point in my life. I mean, the church was not teaching me what Jesus did for me. So when I actually watched, I don't know, The Passion of the Christ, I was crying because some person was being killed, but not because I was remembering what Christ did for me, because it made no sense to me. Nobody told me, right? So
Right. Wow.
um, that was pretty much the situation in my household spiritually,
Sure.
and things with my brothers were getting worse and worse. I mean, they got into a lot of trouble, and we spent a lot of time, trying to figure out um, um, visiting hours for jail, and just trying to gather some money to send them money, because they actually were transferred to the States, because um, the way the federal prison works here is that they're gonna hold you up for like a year, and they just send you off to different prisons
They
across the state.
send you to the United States to go to prison.
Yeah, I mean, after
Wow.
they have the trial here, you spend like a year here, and then you're off to the States.
Wow. That's really, really weird when you think of it in the sort of colonial context.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you were asking what it's like to live here, and we're very nice people, but there's actually a lot of criminal activity going on here. So our prisons are very full. So I guess it has something to do with that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because if you think of England and their colonial habits, usually they're sending criminals away over to colonies, if we're gonna
Right.
keep using that terminology.
Mm-hmm.
But with America, it's kind of has this weird ominous twist that I don't like very much, considering the sort of the for-profit prison system,
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
to just have Puerto Rico where you can just import more prisoners into your for-profit prison system is just
Mm-hmm.
so messed up.
Right. Right. I know. No rehabilitation whatsoever. I mean, it's just
Eh,
my brother once got sick, and my mom was like, I can't go see him because I have no money. And when she talked to him, he was like, I'm having a real bad time, because it's prison. It's not a
yeah,
hotel.
and he was by that time basically in prison overseas from your mother.
Right, right. And
Wow.
she suffered a lot, and I was just quiet, just watching the whole scenario going on, and I actually felt like, I'm not gonna bother my parents with anything. I'm just gonna do my own thing, and I actually tried to be invisible. So that's actually very bad when you're a child.
Sure.
Um, but they did the best they could with considering this situation, and I tried to do the same. But I was actually, I thought it didn't affect me, but that always has its toll on people in
Oh
the
yeah.
family.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
So did you feel, I mean, it seemed like you felt like you didn't want it get in the way enough. Did that kind of carry over later on? Did you have to deal with some of that?
I mean, actually, when my brothers came home, one of them first, and then the other one, um, they sort of, put their lives together, and my parents were a lot happier. But we still have this. That's when we finally got to see that our spiritual circumstances were very, very rotten, because um, we were all home, we were gathering together, but we were a household with a lot of anger. We fought a lot, and nobody was going to church. Nobody was, acknowledging Jesus or praying. My little brother actually, he didn't go back to the very heavy stuff, but he actually, dabbled a little bit with marijuana and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So it's actually there when we thought, oh, all of our problems are over, that we got to see, thank God, our spiritual condition. So that's a whole new thing started, and that's actually when I got sort of rebellious. I was going to college, and I went to a public college, which is the system just actually, doesn't teach you anything about religion. And my parents were like, that's actually bad because this kid is actually not acknowledging God. So when I went to college, it got worse and worse. And I was actually experimenting with all these things, and all that frustration and that thing where I was like, no, I'm not going to be a burden to my parents, came out, in my behavior while I was in college.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, my dad was pretty angry. Um,
You got busted for something then.
I mean, I know I was in what's considered normal
Uh-huh.
when you're not, when you're not a Christian. You just go out with your friends. You drink, well, all that stuff. And my parents actually were very conservative, so they did not like that. And I actually drank a lot, and I got home drunk. I mean, and they were upset, especially my mom, because she is actually very, very, very conservative. So she was like, no, you're wrong. You need to change. Stop drinking. You're a girl. That's wrong. You look ugly. All the. And I was like, Mom, leave me alone. I'm a normal person, okay? People drink. That's what they do. Um, yeah. So, but I was pretty upset because I felt subconsciously that I was neglected by my parents.
Yeah.
Um, so I the drinking problem was actually it got very, very, very bad, up to the point where I was making a fool of myself when I went out with friends, and
Getting a little wild.
yeah, yeah. And I was like, no, this is normal. My family, from my father's side, is actually they're very heavy drinkers. So it's in my blood.
Yeah. See, you
Mhm.
can't take all the
No,
responsibility.
I know it's not my fault, right? um, but I was actually a very good student, and I moved out of my parents' house when I was 20. They actually had to, emancipate me and all that stuff.
Oh, really? Wait, at 20?
At 20, I
How do
was
you
about.
emancipate somebody at 20?
Oh, because here, I mean, in the States, it's 18, right?
Yeah.
No, but here, it's 21.
Oh.
You're an adult at 21. Yeah,
Hey, that
right.
doesn't sound half bad. Get another few years
Well,
to kind of mooch off the parents.
Well, I just wanted to move out. I'm like, nope. I
Yeah,
just want to move out.
that's so funny.
I got a job. I got a job when I was 17. I was in college and I was working. I gathered up a little some money, and I was like, I'm out of here because you guys are old and you don't understand me. So it's I was acting up.
Yeah.
So I moved out. And well, I was living on my own, so I was starting to drink at home. And then when I got, when I went out, so my tolerance actually went, crazy up. So that was actually a very, very, very big problem. I was stressed out um because of school and work.
Yeah.
That um so that's when I never stopped drinking, but I started dabbling into the new age.
Oh, the alcohol wasn't doing it, so you needed
No,
some crystals and some yoga.
I needed to get spiritual, so it could be fancy like that. Um, I actually think, I can tell you now that it was like this desire that we all have
Hmm.
to uh, to know Christ, and to know where we came from, where we're going. We all have that longing. So I had that inside of me. And multiple people approached me and tried to, hey, talk to me about Jesus. And I was like, I don't want to, no Jesus, okay? But now this thing right here, the yoga thing, and that is something I can totally try out. So it's actually, I just want to say to anybody that's gonna, gonna listen to this, yoga is not okay. Don't do yoga
Not
ever.
okay. Oh, interesting. This is a big hot topic of
Yeah.
conversation.
I know a lot of people are like, yeah, it's okay as long as you. No, it's not okay. Yoga is actually a spiritual practice, it's a ritual. You're acknowledging and calling on different entities, different gods. And um, God is a jealous God. So don't do yoga. You're actually singing some mantras in the Sanskrit, and you don't know what you're singing, but you sing them anyways, and you don't even know how uh, exposed you are as a vessel to, all sorts of spiritual misfortunes. So,
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I mentioned, this is a huge conversation going on, and it sounds like you are holding your own in this conversation about the yoga thing and the poses and the mantras, and on the other side, it's all about your heart, or if you don't do necessarily the mantras, but maybe you sing. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns while do your sun salutations or whatever. But you're saying you jumped right into it, and it's not okay. Is it? I mean, was that how it was kind of presented to you? Because a lot of people start doing yoga on this side of the empire. It's very rarely, well, I wouldn't say rare, but it's not rare to go to a yoga practitioner or something and almost never have anything spiritual even mentioned.
right, right. Um, and that is actually something that yoga teachers do. And I can tell you because I became a yoga teacher, we're afraid that we're going to seem like, I mean, not anymore for me, but I was afraid to be perceived as a freak, because not everybody's all opened up about the whole yogi thing. People listen to you and they think you're crazy. What are you talking about? Buddhism, Hinduism, mantras, meditation. You sound like a crazy person. So whenever you start a class, instead of chanting the Om sound, you just start and don't do it. But either way, I mean, the poses are inspired in different gods and entities. So, I mean, oppose itself, even though people might argue that it's good for you. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, any stretching is actually good for you. You can stretch, just don't do yoga. Even though people might argue that it's good for you, and it could be, the spiritual part is actually very, very detrimental. You're exposing yourself to so many bad, um, bad things,
Sure.
demonic possession, even, right? Hmm.
Well, that was going to be my question because, people have shared this obviously before, and if you've ever even heard of something called Facebook.com, I'm sure are aware with the lengths of comment threads discussing this. But as somebody who kind of dove into it and was spiritually curious, I mean, did you experience any of the sorts of things that you would be worried about other people experiencing?
Well, while I was practicing it, the whole spiritual experience is actually very common while you're meditating. You feel stuff, you see stuff in your mind, you experience some feelings of euphoria, um, you cry while you're in the shavasana position, which is like the final position in which you're lying on the floor
Yeah, it's
with
like the
your
corpse pose or
the
something, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
right, the pose. And I actually got to experience a lot of, um, I don't know how to call it, like some visions, some euphoria, and some um, crying moments
Uh-huh.
while I was doing that and meditating. And you actually feel like you have powers. It's ridiculous because this yoga thing, I mean, it's everything. New Age is so it's takes on so many aspects. So you actually think you're God, right? Which is what they teach you. I mean, Christ is actually a Christ consciousness, and if we came from God, we are God.
Yeah, or the
So you
cosmic Christ type of thing,
right,
right? Yeah.
right. And you actually believe it because it sounds, you know why you believe it? Because it has some truth in it. You come from God, and you're a creation of God. But then they twist it, and you just get a whole a huge lie into it. And that's why it sounds nice. That's why Satan is so successful. It's because he knows truth, and he's like, I'm just gonna twist a little bit. So they teach you that you can manifest things. And there was a point in my life where I actually thought that I was manifesting things into my life. I was in charge. I can have a good day because I woke up at 5. I did my yoga practice. I sang my mantras. I meditated, and I am going to have a good day. And today, this and this is going to happen. I mean, it's crazy,
Well, did it
but
work?
sometimes it did. That's the worst part. So
Right.
I mean, I obviously know it wasn't me. So who was
Mm.
it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just so silly because it's so superficial. I mean, you have a good day because things are going your way instead of God's way. So it's this narcissistic thing in which you feel like you're better than other people. And you're practicing every day, so you're fit, and you're God, so you're amazing. You're manifesting things into your life. And I became a yoga teacher, a yoga instructor. I was very good at it, and I felt very good while I was doing it. I taught a lot of people, a lot of children, which I regret to this day. Um, and I have asked for forgiveness for that. I'm like, God, I'm so sorry because you don't know what you're doing. I mean, I I guess there's people that know, but I didn't know that. I just thought I was actually very, very glad when I heard the name of Jesus in one of our classes because we had regular practice, yoga practice, but they have, at least where I was, the yoga studio I was visiting, they had like classes of, there's a book called The Yoga of Jesus, which is the most classic.
What?
Right. Yeah. And it has like in the front, it's like Jesus meditating. I'm not kidding. Um,
Really interesting. Well, there is all that talk about how he, may have spent a bunch of time in the East before he started his ministry and things like that.
God, right. And this is actually one of the books that's written by, his name is Paramahansa Yogananda, and he wrote that, he went and studied with the yogis in India, and that he is actually the best yogi. And it's just so, I mean, that is wrong. And you're teaching that to people. I read the whole book. I was happy that I was like, oh, so this is Jesus. They teach you about a false Christ. So, and that, I mean, I guess you already know where I'm going with this. They teach you about the cycle called Kali Yuga, which is the one we're in, according to them, of
Wait,
course. And that,
the
yeah,
cycle of yoga.
and it's actually the cycle of the times we're living in. That's called
Ah,
Kali Yoga. Yuga, I'm sorry. They believe that across time there are different avatars that come to Earth to save it. They say Krishna was an avatar. They say Buddha was an avatar. They say Jesus was an avatar. He came because in the different cycles, you have a cycle where it starts with peace, and then it goes, it gets bad and it gets worse. And then you need a savior because times are so terrible that somebody needs to get here and fix it. And then the cycle starts all over again. And we're actually in the Kali Yuga cycle, which we're approaching the time where we're actually waiting on our avatar. You tell me who this avatar is, right? I
right.
mean, they teach you to open your arms to the Antichrist, and they teach you that he's the good guy, that he's the savior. And when you are taught that, and you don't know Jesus, and you don't know that he's coming back, and you don't know that he doesn't want you to be deceived, you are going to embrace the Antichrist with open arms, and you're going to be looking forward, looking for all the signs when he's coming. They tell you that it's near, and it's just it's deceptive, it's demonic, it's terrible. So that is why, I mean, this yoga thing is just terrible. They have another book which is written by the same guy that I mentioned, which is Paramahansa Yogananda. He's dead. I don't know if that's relevant. It's called I'm like, he's dead, okay? It's called The Second Coming of Christ. It has 3 volumes, which are huge. I have one of them. I know I should get rid of it, but I can't seem to do it because I always try to warn people about it. I'm like, this book right here, this is what it says, and it's just demonic. There's people that say that we should get rid of all the yoga paraphernalia, but I just can't because of research purposes.
Sure.
It's
Hey,
right.
research purposes, you can keep a lot of stuff around for research purposes.
I know. I mean,
Well, I'm curious because you were obviously pretty deep into it. You were having some experiences. You were finding out what the whole deal was about, and how in the world did you change your mind about it? If you were kind of having the experiences that you were going for, what what happens that can bring you out of that into, and it's not even like you were formerly a follower of Jesus per se. You were never really into it. So it's not like you went back to your childhood, spirituality.
No, I know. I actually, for me to actually come to the feet of Christ, he had to do a little yelling. He was like, no, stop, not anymore. So before I answer that question, I'm actually just to put the nail in the coffin on the whole yoga thing. It's not good for you. I actually want to read what the second coming of Christ says. That's a quote from the author. It says, in titling the work "The Second Coming of Christ," I am not referring to a literal return of Jesus to earth. He came 2,000 years ago, and after imparting a universal path to God's kingdom, was crucified and resurrected. Now, this is very interesting because the word actually tells us to test the spirits, and if it's preaching Christ that did not rose from the dead, then it's a false spirit, right? But here he actually acknowledges the fact that Jesus died and then resurrected, which is interesting. Satan is stepping up his game.
Yeah, okay, so far so good.
And then it says, his reappearance to the masses now is not necessary for the fulfillment of his teaching. What is necessary for the cosmic wisdom and perception of Jesus is to speak again.
Are you reading in English or are you translating live?
It's in English. I actually wrote something here I don't understand. I mean, it says here that we need to acknowledge each one's own experience and understanding of the infinite Christ consciousness that was incarnate Jesus. That will be his second coming. That's what he says. The Christ consciousness, our own experiences, that's his second coming. He's not really coming back.
Right, right. Yeah, I've certainly heard explanations that it seems like a lot of people are trying their hardest to get away from this idea that, the literal Jesus would find his way back here.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, okay, so in order for me to stop doing yoga, I was actually feeling after the whole training and a couple of months of giving some lessons, I started to feel depressed. And I started to feel, like, okay, this is wearing off. I don't feel fine. I don't feel good. I don't feel happy.
Your yoga honeymoon was coming to an end.
Yeah, it was coming to an end. And I was actually very irritable. And I started to drink more, which is not good because I was already, doing, the very heavy drinking. Because it's this emptiness, it's this separation from your father, and not to mention the whole thing that you're dabbling with it's an occult practice, and God knows what is actually surrounding you in regards to bad spirits. So one night I actually went out and to eat with some friends. We had dinner. We had a couple of drinks, and then I went on to another place and had some more drinks. When I was getting home, I was actually in a very bad car accident.
Oh, goodness.
Mm-hmm. I was just getting home. I was drunk, so I got in a car illegally, disregarding, human life, because it's actually very dangerous to do such a thing.
Certainly.
But I was so used to, it's fine. I can drive. I can do it. And it was not the first time that I did. So I was getting home, and I don't remember what happened. I just remember that I was at a stoplight, and then I was just I crashed, and when I opened my eyes, my airbag was already, was already blown up.
Oh no.
And I was like, "What's happening?" And then what I saw was a guy. I was stuck in a car, and I saw the guy with his head on a wheel, and I was like, "What's happening?"
Oh
I tried to
no.
open the door, and I couldn't get out. A couple of seconds later, somebody came and helped me out, and they started to ask me if I was okay, and I was. But when I saw the intensity of the car crash, I crashed with three different cars.
Wait, so it's three different cars and you?
Yeah, I hit one, and then I went on to hit two more. Uh, I don't even know how I did that.
Wow, that's
And
impressive.
oh, I'm not proud of it, but thank you. um, the first one there was a guy in it, and he hit his head with the window. The other two were actually okay, but the first couple of seconds, which remember, I don't know what happened. I don't have any memory, not until this day. I don't even know if I fell asleep. I don't know. So I don't remember hitting the cars. I don't remember the airbag going off. I don't remember anything. It was just nothing happened in that period of time
Right.
in my life.
Yeah.
So when I got out and I saw all the mess, I was like, I killed somebody. I must have killed somebody, because there's this glass everywhere, and there's so many people that stopped to help. I didn't know who was who, and I just lost it. I started crying, and I started shaking, and some people came up to me, asked me if I was fine, and they were telling me we're all fine. Everything else is it's just material stuff. We can fix it. But I was so embarrassed, and I was like, I could have. When I figured out I didn't kill anybody, I said, but I could have. I could have. I could as well killed someone. And
Yeah.
that thought is actually the worst thing that could go through a person's mind. Just your whole life would have changed, if just because you drank and you got in your car to drive and you killed someone. That was just unconceivable in my mind. So I lost it. I was out of control. I actually we waited for the police, and obviously I got arrested. So
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I get arrested. They put the handcuffs down on me. Um, and then there was the whole court procedure, which was pretty embarrassing.
What was
I
that?
lost.
What was that like with your mother and father? Did you tell your mom? Did she ever find out?
I had to because I mean there was no car. My car. I lost my car.
Yeah.
Um, so I walked to my brother's home, which was like, I don't know, 45 minutes away. I
Like
walked.
from the police station or something?
No, somebody took me home, and then I walked.
Okay.
Um, um, and I said, I was in a car crash, and we need to go home and tell our parents that I did something really bad, that I got arrested, that I'm
No,
gonna go to court,
no, no.
and that I lost my
Oh,
and I almost killed a couple of people. So it
oh
was
no.
pretty.
She didn't. You would think after all your brothers, she would have just been like, "Oh, is that it? Okay,
Well,
well."
that's the thing. That's the thing. She did not expect that something like that would happen to me, because even though I was doing all the drinking and everything, I was always the good kid. So
Yeah.
very disappointed when we got home. I was like, I'm not gonna go in there. I was terrified. And my brother actually went in and he told them, and I could hear the screaming, and then they all came running
Oh,
out.
no.
Horrible, and it was heartbreaking to see my parents, pain for something I did. So it was horrible. I couldn't eat. I didn't feel like I deserved to eat. One of the guys, the guy that hit his head with the windshield, I thought maybe he got more than a concussion and maybe he could die like a couple of days. I mean, it was so many things that were going through my head. And I didn't understand what was happening. And that is the point in life when you're like, I cannot go on my own. There's got to be something more, because I was already depressed, because of the whole yoga thing not working out for me, even though I did not connect the dots, I was
Right.
like, going through a rough patch. So, uh, after the accident, that was God screaming at me. He was like, I have sent you so many people to bring you home, and you were just not listening. I had to, that's how it felt. And I did not figure it out then because I had the accident. I went through the rough patch. I was super sad and super hopeless. My parents were angry at me. The people that crashed, that were involved in the accident, were asking for money as compensation, and I did not have any money to pay them. So it was pretty bad.
Oh my gosh, that's a nightmare. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's some sort of insurance system over there, but it sounds like it's a little bit more loosey-goosey than I was expecting.
Yeah. Um, there was, but just because if you're under the influence of alcohol, they
Yeah.
don't pay up.
Yeah. That's a good point. Okay, touche. You got me on that one.
So, I actually started a new job. I had the accident on a Friday night, and on Monday I was starting in my new job with a Christian coworker.
Oh, here we go. Making the transfer, baby.
So I started on Monday because she was like, I told her, I'm like, I had an accident. I have no car. And she's like, okay, tough luck. I'll see you here on Monday. She was like, and I'm like, oh, did you not hear me? I can't go to work on Monday. But either way, I started on Monday, and now I can thank her for doing that because it was all God's plan. Because if I went home and I did not go to work, it would have been worse because I was already so sad, and
Yeah, that's kind of the spiral. That's the temptation to spiral down.
Yeah. So I started working with my co-worker, and I knew she was a Christian, and I was like, she's a Christian, but I'm not gonna fall for that. I'm just not, okay? She's gonna do her thing, and I'm gonna do my thing, and she's a nice person, and I'm a nice person. We can get along. I can get along with a Christian.
Sure.
That's my thinking. So foolish of me. I imagine God just laughing at me like, this girl, seriously. So then, the thing that got me, and I know you guys are gonna love this, like the conspiracy theories. She did not go like, hey, do you have a moment to talk about Jesus? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh my God, I love that. The missionary magic of conspiracy theories.
Jesus, it's so good. I mean, so many people approach me with the let's talk about Jesus, and I'm like, no. So God was like, it's not gonna be how it's gonna be this time. It's gonna be different. It's gonna work. So she started talking about, I'm gonna say, Kanye West when he had his
No
breakdown.
way. That was it? Listeners of this program will know I love asking about the first conspiracy theory you ever heard. The first one you heard was of Kanye West?
Oh, Kanye, and that's kind of disappointing. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That means Kanye West may have saved somebody's soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. Okay, continue. I got excited.
He had his meltdown right in that concert.
Oh my gosh.
He was just. I was just telling her, you know what happened to Kanye West? That's messed up. And she was like, "Oh, honey, that's he's an MK Ultra victim." And I'm like, "What the MK Ultra was that?" And she just explained, and that led to the whole YouTube thing. And she was
the YouTube thing.
this video and this video, and check out this channel. And guess whose channel it was? None other than Face Like the Sun.
Oh, yeah. Gons. Changing the world. Good job, buddy.
Kudos to Gons.
Let me guess. Did it have anything to do with Age of Deceit?
Oh my gosh. Age of Deceit is so good. I mean, is there anybody who sees that and goes like, nope? You just see that and you're like, oh God.
Nope, it's all Age of Deceit. He's saving a whole country of people just on the views from Age of Deceit. Well, that's good. Age of Deceit, Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. Everybody go check it out. Saving souls, saving lives. That is so funny. So Age of Deceit, Face Like the Sun, got into it. Now, what was it? Now, I'm sure you truncated that story just a little bit for me and my listeners here. Oh, Kitty, get out of here. Sorry, Cat's getting too cuddly. She loves talking about Age of Deceit. So you go straight from Kanye West, MK Ultra into like Nephilim.
Yeah. That was,
it's so
we're just like,
it's so
great.
Interesting that transition like even exists. I'm so happy about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fringe from the beginning.
Oh, from the beginning. There's something to say about that. It's always great. I mean, I thank God every day for people who come to know Christ. Joining in the family. But there are some people like you who just go straight to the fringe. Don't even get to like I grew up like in pretty like I have great respect and love for my Christian background, but it was very much kind of like boring regular Christian. Just doing that thing. It took me like 23 years to get into the Nephilim.
Oh my gosh. No, I just died. I was presented with the whole idea of the fallen angels and the Book of Enoch. We used to read it just for fun, right from the beginning. And you know what? I don't think. I mean, when somebody, this is for the evangelist, right? When you're gonna talk to someone, you can't have a script because people they have different interests.
And they'll sniff that out immediately.
Right. So if anybody, even after the accident, if someone would have come to me with a brochure of, hey, do you have time to talk about Jesus? I would have like, no. How many times do I have to tell you I do not have time to talk about Jesus? Okay?
I literally don't have time. I'm sorry.
I have a court appointment to get to. Okay.
But have you seen this awesome movie, Age of Deceit?
Yeah, right. And I'm like, movies. I love movies. Let's watch that. So, it was. That's why. I mean, it was God. He was like, this girl is never gonna. I need to change. We need to change the tactic.
I love that.
right? I like to think of it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe when I get to heaven, he's like, what were you saying about me? And I'm like, I don't know. I just
That's the
thought
thing
that
about God. God knows his audience.
yeah.
He
And
knows how to reach his audience better than anyone else.
yeah. So, and I think it was just at the right time. I like to think that I had to go through all that I went through to be, what I am today. So I'm thankful for that. Um, and then I was like, she introduced me to the whole conspiracy things. I was watching all the videos, but it still wasn't, giving my life to Christ,
Yeah.
or going to church or reading the Bible. I wasn't there yet. But then I went to a store. Um, this my coworker was giving me testimony. She wasn't pushing me to do anything. She was like, see you later. I'm going to church. We're going to do this and this and this today. And I'm like, okay, see you later. But then it got stuck to me. I'm like, she's going to church. Maybe I should. And then I'm like, no. Remember, we were going to do our own thing. I know that sounded like I have like two personalities because I said that. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I get it. I think people who've gone through it understand what you're saying.
So, then I went to a store and I was like in the book section and I'm like, here are the Bibles. Maybe I should get a Bible for research purposes.
Just for research purpose. You must have a lot of weird stuff for research purposes.
I have a weird, yeah.
I definitely too. My library is very strange for research purposes.
For research, right? So I got the Bible and I didn't tell her about it. I was like, I'm not gonna tell her because she's gonna be like, I got her.
Don't want to give her the satisfaction.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm not gonna tell her. So I tried to read the Psalms and I was like, oh my God, this is so tragic. What is wrong with this person? So many enemies. So, when you don't have, the eyes to see, I guess I had like this veil, in which I wasn't like seeing things as they were. Yeah. So I didn't have that understanding. And then I was like, hey, how are you today? I was meaning to ask you, what do you guys do at church on, I don't know, Tuesdays? And she's like, well, we do this and this and prayer and whatever. And what do you do on Fridays? Well, on Fridays we have a class about the New World Order.
No way.
Oh, that sounds so interesting. Maybe I'll go to that someday. And then I asked about Sundays and, she explained that.
Dude, Puerto Rico sounds like the church for me, man.
Well, I can tell you that I was pretty lucky. Because that's not a very common thing.
I would imagine not.
Yeah. So I went to church on a Tuesday, which was prayer night, and I was there. I felt so weird because everybody was just, for me, for a former Catholic, and then nothing of a sort. Just seeing all these people singing, getting up and playing instruments and singing loud and praising God. I was like, oh my God, this is so weird.
A little rowdy, a little more rowdy than you're used to. These Protestants are out of control.
Gosh, calm down, please.
This is a house of the Lord.
Why are you so loud? That's not appropriate. It was weird, but it felt like it was a good thing, right? I had that feeling that these people are really joyful, and something here feels different. It's not like going to a Catholic church where it feels like somebody died, and I don't mean to insult or anything. But that's just the way it felt. Everybody's so gloomy, and you just get up and you sit down and you kneel and you don't raise your voice that much. on, and everything has this order, and you don't hear anybody praising God, at the top of their lungs when you're in Catholic church. I mean, that was not my experience. So when I went to this prayer night, everything was loud, but it was nice. So the pastor was like, "Hey, we're glad you're here. Let us pray for you." And she asked me if I wanted to accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and I'm like, yes. And
this looks like a blast. I'm in.
And I'm like, sure, let's do it. And I did it, and I was crying a lot because I was very hurt. The whole accident thing, and the whole running away from God for 20 something years. That's exhausting, and you get hurt, and you're not following the Lord's commandments. And I just want everybody to know that the commandments are there because they're for your own good. I mean, if you run off, and when you lie and you steal and you cheat and you do all these things, it's not gonna be good for you. You're gonna get hurt.
It's not fun for very long.
I know, right? It doesn't work. In the end, you're gonna be miserable. A lot of people are gonna be angry at you, and you have no one to hold on to. God is almighty. So when I accepted God, I was very, very hurt. So for the next month, I'm just crying every day. But I did not miss a service. Yeah, because it was like all this hurt coming out, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to understand what is happening, because I accepted Christ, but then I got like a little scared. I'm like, what have I done?
What have I gotten myself into?
Right. I was like, because I had no understanding other than conspiracies, and the devil is running the government.
That's very interesting. That's a very unique process to have to go through.
Yeah.
From the outset.
Yeah. So I was a little confused.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave a couple of more yoga classes, like I don't know, like a month, and then I was out forever. I was like, okay, this is, and even when after I accepted Christ, I'm like, I'm gonna do this because they're paying me, and I already said yes. But I am not gonna sing any mantras, and I am just gonna read a Bible verse at the end of every class.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. The owner of the studio wasn't around, so it was easier because if she would have hurt me, I'm sure she would have.
Did you find any kind of backlash against that, or where, because I found that sometimes New Agers are kind of like, they're pretty much open to anything. So a lot of them are like fine with Bible stuff, but I'm sure that's not everybody.
No, I mean, nobody approached me being like, "Oh, that was inappropriate." No, no, not at all. Thank God.
Okay, very cool.
But then I was out, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna serve the Lord.
We're just gonna roll with this.
Yeah. And when I finally, when you finally get it, I mean, the Lord died for you because you're a sinner, you're hopeless, you're never gonna be perfect, you're not God. No matter how many rituals you're involved in, no matter how early you get up, no matter how much you meditate, no matter what you do, you're hopeless. You need a savior, and we are always looking for a savior, right? In movies, in real life,
right.
Just throughout all human history, it's always, we need a hero. If we watch a movie where there's no hero, it sucks.
It's not a good movie.
Right. So when I finally got it, I was like, oh my gosh, how did I get this far without you. And I got that he was taking care of me the whole time because he knew I was going to come to him eventually. So he was like, oh, let me watch this person so she just doesn't get too hurt, because let me tell you what I think. I mean, I could have easily killed someone in that car crash.
Yeah.
And my life would have been so different. But it didn't happen. The court case was actually, it got, what's it called when it's just, it went away.
Really?
Yeah.
It was acquitted or something.
Yeah, right. It was dismissed.
What?
Yeah, I had to.
That's a miracle.
I had to give a little compensation to the victims, but it was a small amount,
Right.
which I could give, and the other charges were dismissed, and that is a miracle. And
wow.
Because it was just over, so I'm like, okay. So you brought this crisis upon me just so I can, be like, okay, God, I get it. And then he made it all go away just so I can focus on him. I mean, there's so many things that happen afterwards, including a lot of sleep paralysis and night terrors after I Jesus. It was a nightmare for like a month. I couldn't sleep. I had to turn the light on. I was just tormented. I'm like, what is happening? I'm supposed to be happy now. This session that is just going to be rainbows and butterflies afterwards. I get it now, though. I know it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like you've come a long way since those times.
Yeah. No, I've gotten to, I mean, I try to study it as much as I can, and thank God there are people like you and God that have these amazing shows like Canary Cry Radio, Canary Cry News Tech. I mean, you guys are amazing.
Oh, you flatter me.
No, I know you hear that. I know you hear this a lot, and you're like, okay, stop it.
Well, thank you very much. We try our best to follow what the Lord has for us. And well, it's always a wonderful feeling to hear that it's actually doing something out there. A lot of times with these podcasts, you're doing podcasts and videos, and sure, you can see some numbers on a screen, but that doesn't mean much until somebody tells you about it. So I appreciate that very much. I don't want to act like that's not a big deal, because it is.
Yeah, my first episode, because I started with Face Like the Sun, but Gons actually posted some Canary Cry Radio. It was Canary Cry Radio episodes, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna play this. And since it was audio and there was no pictures, I'm like a little kid. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna listen to this. It's too long and there's no pictures. But afterwards, my first episode, and I want to say this because this is important. My favorite episode ever of you guys is actually the water episode. I don't know if you remember.
That's very interesting. I don't know if anybody's said that before. Thank you very much.
I mean, you have amazing guests, and I love all of them. But just the two of you talking about water with the sound effects, it's a masterpiece.
Well, I'm going to tell Guns that. He's going to be very happy to hear that.
When I heard, that's the first episode I heard, and I remember thinking, these two are an amazing, a duo. Mm-hmm. They just, you say a joke, Gons laughs. Then you make, I love the fact that he was like giving all this very, very articulated facts, and you were just saying like the percentage of water in different stuff, like a pint floor. And it's just the dynamic and the facts and the way you put that with the whole Bible verses. It's I mean, I don't know if you know this, but you guys are pretty smart, and the Lord has blessed you with this talent. Your ministry is on fire.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to have to tell Gons to listen. Gons has a lot of compliments in this one, but this one he will be happy to share with me. Yeah, we have a good time doing the ones like the water episode. It's a lot more work, so we do a little bit less of it, but that's good to know. If we get shut out by all the guests we try to get on the show, we can always talk about water or maybe some dirt next time.
Yeah, you still have to do the dirt one because you have zombies.
There's a lot of good stuff going on in dirt.
Mm-hmm.
It's taken us years to uncover the research on dirt, but we're gonna do one.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, I mean, like a lot of guests who come on the show, they say, "Oh, well, I don't have as an exciting story as blank." Name some other guest who's been on the show.
Johnny Iron.
Sure, Johnny Iron was your example. What's up, Johnny? But I gotta say, every person I talk to, you especially, has just just fascinating life stories and experiences that the Lord puts them through to get them where they're at, which is at this moment in the present, ending up on this show, telling the stories that I'm telling you, tons of people are gonna listen to this and be like, "Oh, that girl was my favorite episode," because. So I just want you to know that, and everybody else who comes on the show, it's good stuff. It's doing good. You put all the stuff you've been through. It's time to put it to work and let somebody else listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit. This is good. We've been going a good time. We still got time, so I'm not wrapping it down. But I'm curious as to what is life like now. And because you've obviously gone through quite the experience. And if I'm skipping over something, feel free to stop me. I'm very good at skipping over things that don't need to be skipped over. But what is life like now? I mean, you've been very good at not setting a lot of dates with a lot of the stuff you've been telling us. Is this fairly recent? Is this within a few years? What's this looking like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it has been a very, like sort of a year and a half. I don't know if it's 2 years. I'm not sure now.
2 years
it's
since.
Very late.
Yeah, but
and my brain is like, what's happening? You're supposed to be, whatever.
The time difference is extraordinary that we are experiencing right now.
It has been like, I think it's a year and a half since I accepted Jesus Christ.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah. And right now, after that happened, all I wanted to do was evangelize my family, and that is one of the most difficult things you could do, because here none of my family members were Christians, but I am actually giving all glory to God that my mom at 71 years old got baptized like 6 months ago.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, so funny because she's an old lady. And when they baptized her in the ocean, she resisted a little bit, and the people that were trying to grab her had a really difficult time. It was hilarious. She was like, "No, I'm not ready to go into the water." So it was hilarious.
Do you know how old I am? You're gonna dunk me in the ocean? What's wrong with you?
I told you I wasn't ready. It was hilarious. The waves were crazy. So it was it was funny.
Oh my gosh.
And one of my three brothers he actually got baptized last week. So 2 out of how many? Two, three, 2 out of 5.
5, yeah. Well, I got to tell you this. You said evangelizing your family is very difficult. It's only been 1.5 or 2 years since you even became a Christian, and you've already got 2 of your family members. You're doing a pretty good job, girl. There are people who go their entire lives without, somebody else seeing the light. That's hey, you get bonus points.
Yay!
And keep at it, because you got a lot more time, and the other 3 members of your family better watch out, because they don't know what's coming.
Oh, for sure.
I know that sounded like a threat, but
no, it's fine. Don't fix it. It's okay. It is a threat. It's been very difficult because my father and I used to be very, very, very close. I was daddy's little girl. And that since I became a Christian, that has changed 360.
Really?
Yeah, it's so sad because I get it. It's sort of a spiritual warfare. My father is a very, very devoted Catholic. So, I'm coming at him. It started very strong. So maybe the approach wasn't the right one.
Yeah.
So he got mad that I was just bashing the Pope and the statues and the rituals. And he just shut down completely. And that actually had an impact on the way he treated me. That has been very, very painful. And I'm still struggling with that today.
Yeah.
But, I'm very, very, very hopeful that my whole house is going to be saved. So I'm just going to do my thing. And the Lord gives me strength. He's fighting the battles.
Yeah.
So,
and much like it was for your own situation, the Lord knows his audience. He knows what it's going to take. And you're there to do your part, but he's the one with with most of the responsibility in this situation.
Thankfully, yeah. And the other disadvantage is that my father is actually starting to lose his memory. So that is a very big obstacle because I just telling something, and that just when I think I'm getting through to him, he just forgets. So it's pretty frustrating.
Yeah, and you mean in less of just a silly dad way and more of an older, getting older type of way. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is actually one of the things I have on top of my list is my family. The other thing that I'm doing is actually I'm very active in my church, and we started a ministry. It's like a digital ministry. We make YouTube videos.
Hey, there you go.
We try to incorporate the information that we get from all sorts of places, including Canary Cry, because people don't understand what you're saying because of the language barrier.
Hey,
so
yeah.
Hey, let's do it in Spanish. Let's teach these people who the Nephilim and the falling angels are.
There you go. I like that. Yeah, we've actually been we've been toying around with the idea of getting some transcriptions made and things like that to try to put it into other languages. We were talking to some guy in Russia about that. I don't know whatever happened to that guy. If you're listening, Russia guy, hit us back. But yeah, Spanish, obviously, like one of the biggest ones we would need to get going.
Yeah, definitely. Because I tell everybody about it. I'm like, hey, have you listened to Canary Cry? And they're like, what is, Canary Cry? They don't even know what Canary Cry means,
Oh, in
So in
Spanish, you mean?
Spanish,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like kind of difficult
Yeah, it's
to.
also kind of I think it's kind of a cultural reference too. Does canary cry like the canary in a coal mine type thing? Is that a reference that people even understand?
Yeah, I mean,
Do you
we
have coal
kind of get the
mines?
whole. We kind of get the whole. No, we don't. We kind of get the whole, the bird in the cage.
Got it. Yeah, okay.
That is trapped and that is not a free thinker.
Sure, there we go. Perfect.
So I guess kind of. Yeah. But it's very important that people learn about it. So we do that. It's a kind of an apologetic ministry. We talk about different religions, and it's fairly new. It's been up for only 2 months.
Oh, hey, a brand new ministry. I'm liking that. What's it called? Because we got all sorts of people listening to this, Spanish speakers, all sorts of people.
Oh yeah, check us out. Definitely. It's called in English it's in Intellectual Christian. So in Spanish it's Cristiano Intelectual.
Oh.
I think that you can see the logo.
I see it on your thing here. That's how I'm getting this. That's how I'm getting the spelling for this here.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's a fun. I like that little brand. I love that. Cristiano Intelectual. Did I say it? Did I say it kind of right?
Yeah.
Cristiano Intelectual.
Oh my gosh.
Was that bad?
No, that was good.
Okay.
It was kind of sophisticated.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, maybe I'll if you guys want, I'll record some sound bites you can throw in there for your bumpers.
Just record.
Cristiano Intelectual.
Basil, just send it to me, and we're gonna use it in all of our videos.
I gotta work on my pronunciation, or else everybody will just be like, "Who's this gringo you're getting?"
The way it sounds now, it's perfect.
Okay, I will do that. I'll put that on my list right here. Do bumpers. Okay, well that's very cool. And you're gonna make sure to send me links so I can put that when I post this. So we'll get all our Spanish speaking people to come support the ministry.
I have my testimony is actually up there, so I'll send you that.
Oh, perfect. That'll be perfect. Well, that's fantastic. You have just hit the ground running with this whole thing. A year and a half in, you already got 2 people saved, and you got a ministry going, and I'm impressed. I'm very impressed, girl.
Yeah, on fire for Jesus.
Amen. Well, okay. So before I start going down this road, I'm going to be curious because I had an interesting run-in with a furry friend when I was in Puerto Rico. But before I tell you about mine, and before you even tell me about yours, I want to make sure that there wasn't anything else you wanted to talk about.
Well, just...
Feel free. We got all the time in the world, too. Don't feel like you have to keep it short.
No, I think I pretty much covered most of it. One of the things that I wanted to make clear is that the whole yoga culture is a very sick culture. You have a lot of people that feel like they're very holy and they're so high on the spiritual chain. But while I was in training, I was actually doing yoga for 13 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
I had my instructors were on top of me, literally trying to adjust me and pushing my body to limits where it just wasn't ready to go there. So it's a pretty abusive culture, and it's actually very prone to sexual abuse, if I might say that.
Yeah.
So just this facade, if that's for, if I can say, as Michael Heiser would say, the facade. Just this whole, fake beings of, that we're so perfect. It's just a culture of it's a very savage culture. So
well, that's very, I mean, that's, yeah, don't feel like you have to skip over that. That's very interesting and very important because, yeah, I mean, that's from the outside. As somebody who is not deep in the yoga culture, let me tell you, it's good to know that there are flaws like that. And people who may be interested, hey, you're saying it, not me, that just the complete yoga thing, don't even mess with it. And, but it has a draw, especially around in the cultures around me. It has a draw that, even little church ladies are going off to their praiser size or whatever it's called. And, no culture, especially one that has claims of spirituality or anything like that, is safe from the darkness inside people, So that's very important.
Yeah, so it's pretty inhumane, and they while I was in training, I became a vegetarian just because at that moment, because they tell you, like, if you eat animals, it's bad. You're putting a graveyard in your stomach, and you're gonna get sick, and you're gonna die, and stuff like that. And it's bad. Yeah. It's bad. So and they make you kind of like starve, us Christians, we fast to get closer to God. But they just make you fast just for the fun of it, I mean, it's a spiritual practice as well.
Sounds like a lot of trauma, like a lot of physical trauma. I mean, kind of forcing your bodies into things. You got instructors who are holding you down, adjusting you, and not letting you eat in 13 hours. That's crazy. I don't think I've done anything for 13 hours. Except for sleep. I've definitely slept for 13 hours.
Oh, me too. It's while you're in it, you're just, it's fine. It's just the way it's supposed to be. You need to work hard to become a good yoga teacher.
Right.
But once I got out, I'm like, what? What's wrong with this?
What was I thinking?
And I was just so skinny. I was in my bones, and I thought I had like this sort of a body dysmorphia. I was skinny. I cut my hair very short. I don't know why I did that. It was normal to me during that period of time in my life. And then I was stretching, and the last thing I'm gonna say about this is that you are able to contort your bodies in ways that are not, if you were a normal person, you wouldn't be able to do it. So I think there's actually a spiritual component to that as well. And I was actually once able to, I was doing like a bridge. Do you know the bridge? You just... it's
kind of like a plank type. Oh, is that the backwards bendy one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I did a bridge, and then I was able to, there was a guy, like, I don't know, 160, 170 pounds, that got on top of me, like, to do another pose, and I was able to hold him while I was in position. So, and I look back to that now, and I'm like, that's not even, I was like a skeleton. That's not even possible.
Yeah,
How
that's
did I
crazy.
do that?
Wow.
I think that is actually proof that you're messing with stuff that is not good for you. I mean, just the contorting and the whole inhumane strength is a sort of abilities that I think you get like a reward for dabbling into the occult. I don't know if I'm...
Yeah, and what's interesting is those are like the benefits that they're telling you.
Yeah.
Like that's the benefit is you can do crazy stretches and you can hold a cow on your head while you're like whatever on one foot or something. Like that's the benefits that are touted. But you're saying that that's just it's not all it cracks up to be there.
No, it's not normal. You're not supposed to be doing those things. Just stand up straight. For God's sake.
the most straightforward argument against yoga. No, you're not supposed to do that. Just stand up. You're a human. You're just a human being. Just chill.
Just walk and it's normal.
Oh, I love that. That's so funny. What a funny way to end that. A super serious situation. Not to take away from it, but we pulled the nose up on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's that. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, long story short, when I was in Puerto Rico, I got attacked by a bird. Like a really big bird. And it wasn't friendly. It was not a friendly bird. It was a mean bird. It was a big, mean, colorful bird. And that's it. That's the end of my story. So what about you? You have any?
No, I have no, Basil. I have questions. Where did this bird come from? Was he flying? Was he walking?
So okay, again, long story. It did fly, but I don't think it was supposed to fly.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to figure out what bird.
So it was like a parrot, but it's not like a parrot that people are thinking of. I honestly couldn't tell you. It was a very traumatic experience.
Oh, I'm so
and
sorry.
I barely escaped with my life. The bird did draw blood, but I escaped.
Wow.
I escaped. Again, it's probably, I mean, I was just being a dumb tourist. I didn't think I was provoking the bird, but the bird thought otherwise.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But I'm okay. I made it. I have found restitution with that bird. I've found forgiveness after a long time of spiritual therapy and reconciliation practices with this bird, and we now consider each other brothers in Christ. So do you have any pets?
I was actually, that is hilarious. Birds are mean here, so I'm gonna give you that.
I
but
noticed.
You were probably doing something you weren't supposed to. It's okay. I mean, you're not from here, so
I wasn't breaking any laws, but I was probably just not being wise. Probably not my wisest moment.
Yeah. So now that I'm just gonna share this, and I'm just gonna go to my pets.
Okay.
Yeah. I was actually thinking, I know you're doing this for Patreon already. You ask people
yes.
to ask questions. So I think it's actually a good idea to interview you.
Uh-oh.
But no, I'm just gonna throw them there, and I don't think that, because maybe you're gonna have to go into a lot of things, but I think 3 good questions that you should address in whatever manner you think is good.
Okay, for Ask Baz, my my Patreon bonus episodes. One's coming out soon, by the way, but here's some questions that might make it on the next one.
So, I don't mean to sound like a psycho, but
okay, psycho.
You do throw in some insight in your life. I know you're a very private person, but from what I've heard on the episodes, I can ask you these 3 questions without sounding weird.
Okay.
What is your favorite mission trip? Because I believe you were on a mission.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one.
Number 2.
Okay.
It's why cats and not dogs.
Oh, another very good one. Yeah.
And 3rd and final question is, why do you always cover up your face when you're live?
That is also a very good question, and one that I have been asked so many times, But I have not officially answered it on an Ask Baz, so I will put it on Ask Baz. If anybody out there is interested in the answers to any of those 3 questions, great time to plug it. Patreon.com/TheJoyspiracy And bonus episodes go up there. You just got to, it's a good opportunity if you like the show to let me know and also get access to some fun stuff. Those are 3 very good questions. I'll make sure to address those in an upcoming Ask Baz. So keep your eyes open.
Good. Okay. So, I have a queen cat. Her
queen cat. Ooh, so fancy.
Yeah, she's a fancy kitty. Her name is Aphrodita. And now that is the name of the Roman Greek goddess.
One of those old things, yeah.
No, I did not name her. She was, somebody found her with a name tag on it and a phone number. She was like 5 months old.
Oh.
And they tried calling. I'm sorry. They tried calling, but nobody answered. So they were looking for somebody to take her, and they gave her to me, and she has been the most amazing blessing. I mean, a cat is just, they have such amazing personalities. She's such a diva, and she is like...
I mean, with a name like that.
Yeah, it's a big name. So she's like, no, human, you're not going to pet me now. You're going to pet me whenever I want. And there is something about that. I don't know if this is why you like cats, but I'm just going to play a little psychology game here.
Okay.
We as humans like to pursue things that are kind of unreachable to us.
No, we enjoy a challenge. That is for sure.
So... maybe that's why we like cats.
We like the constant challenge of earning the love of this tiny figure in our life. I think that's very true. When you get the love of a cat, you know that you've earned it.
I know.
It's not because, they love everything. It's because they chose you as the object of their affection.
My gosh, right? And it's so satisfying whenever they give you this little token of affection.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bad romantic relationship.
Right, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
An abusive boyfriend. That's what all cats are like.
Yeah.
Not to belittle that, but
that says a lot about us.
Yeah. Oh, man. We need to talk to somebody. I need somebody to do a therapy podcast that I can go on. There you go. There's an idea.
Yeah.
Cristiano Intelectual.
Well, we're not.
Oh, that's not it?
Yeah, we're not.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't give you therapy, Basil. I'm sorry. Well, and I'm pretty sure. We can talk about Jehovah's Witnesses if you want. Okay. So, 8 months ago, I got a little puppy. So her name is Macedonia, and I actually did name her that.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, it's the name of the place in Greece in which Paul established the Filippo Church.
Yeah. That's a good name for a dog.
Right? It's a big name, and she's tiny, and she has a lot of personality too. And the cat hates her so much. And it's so fun to watch them interact, because the puppy is actually she overpowers the cat. So when she runs her around and she pins her to the floor, and the cat is like, no! And she looks at me like, why did you do this to me, mother? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I thought that if I brought up little puppy, you would get used to it.
Well, I like that. You're crossing boundaries. You're building bridges between the canines and the felines.
It's not going very good.
Yeah, even if they're burning those bridges themselves, you're at least building the bridges.
Well, the dog is just, Macedonia is just willing, it's just, Aphrodita is like, no, not today. And I love them very much. Uh, I have lived on my own for I don't know, 10 years? No, 9. No, wait, 8.5 years. So having a pet is very therapeutic. I get home and they're just there waiting for me to take care of them, and I am very, very grateful for that. So I love my pets very much.
Well, that's very nice. Yeah, it sounds like you got a good thing going on over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, good, good. And I'm glad to hear that the canine feline geopolitical situation is it's still tense, but they're finding a way to coexist somehow.
Mm-hmm. It's getting better, I guess.
Now, here's something I'm curious about. Having to do the yoga teacher thing, doing all the exercise, the stretching, the getting, the thinning out, the eating practices, the vegetarianism. What is that like now as far as the fitness aspect of it? Because I'm sure that'll take some meat off your bones doing all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Did you kind
And I
of hold?
eat a lot.
Okay, I was going to ask how much of those practices, at least for health and fitness wise, how much of that stuck around? How much did you let it go? Would you kind of pivot into something else? What's that looking like?
Well, after the whole coming to Christ thing, I decided I wasn't going to do anything that resembled yoga. I thought it was not healthy, uh, spiritually, psychologically, for me to do anything that resembled that. So I spent a couple of months not doing anything when it comes to exercise. But right now, I have a very strict routine in which I just get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. And I do, my prayers and everything, and then I just go out and run. That's what I do, and it's actually very good for me.
Yeah, that's impressive. I got to tell you, 5 a.m. every morning, unthinkable for me, but I'm very proud of you. I pray for that spiritual blessing.
It's horrible, but
oh my gosh!
And I mean, if I don't, because then I go to work and then I get home and I'm tired. So I just figured,
But you do it, and it feels, I'm sure you thank yourself every day to do that, and then you get up and you run in the morning, you crazy person. But okay, all right, whatever works for you, that's good. And the vegetarianism thing, you still hanging with that, or are you a graveyard now?
No. No, I actually stuck with that. I'm a vegetarian. It's been, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years. So, I stuck with that diet. I don't think I could be able, I mean, at least not for now. I'm not going to say never. I don't think it's going to be even possible to get some meat in my mouth because I'm going to get sick, and I don't have a desire for it. And I actually just, I said, maybe when I started, it was like a spiritual thing, but now it's like, no, an environmental thing.
There's a lot of reasons. I used to have a vegetarian friend. When people asked why they did it, they just said, all of the reasons. There's a lot of reasons, just all of them in some degree or another. And I'm sure people who have listened to any of my shows for long enough will know I spent a long time as a vegetarian. And it's a good time if you do it right. There's a wrong way to do it. And and there you go. And it's very hard being a vegetarian and also going overseas for long periods of time when you're very often not in control of what you're eating. So
I mean, because people are gonna look at you and be like, "Oh, you ungrateful little person!
We killed our only chicken for you."
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, the thought of denying that gift is a nightmare. I'll eat up all the chicken now. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it for you, people. Okay, well, that's great. It sounds like you're finding balance. You're doing what's working. You're leaving what's not working. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And you feel good?
I do. I
Okay.
do feel good.
Good. And you feel good because you got cats and dogs around. That makes you feel good, too.
Of course. No, I mean it's like a balance of everything, every aspect. I just try to keep everything in place. It doesn't always work. There are other areas of my life that are like not working out, right? Like, right, it's not working out, but fine. But the Lord, just being able to hold on to Him and having Him, come and intervene in all the aspects of my life, I feel great. That is something that an unbeliever doesn't have. You don't have any hope. So I feel good. Mm-hmm.
Well, good. Carolina, this has been just a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
For 2 hours, just such a pleasure. I thank you so much for coming on the show, and I'm going to give you one more chance in case there was something that you were just aching to get out that we didn't get to. Now's your chance, but don't feel pressure. You don't have to have something.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I just wanted to say that I'm very thankful for the opportunity of coming on the podcast. I mean, when I first got in touch with you, I was like, I'm just gonna send these email, and he's not gonna answer. He's got all these things going on, and I just send it. I just like when you send something to the oblivious. And I was actually so stoked when I heard back from you, and I was like, oh my gosh! And you said, yeah, you can be on the show, and I'm like, really? Is that that's everything? That's all I needed to do.
It's that easy. I'm telling you, it's that easy. Sometimes you got to wait a little while to get a response, but it's that easy. And, what you did, which always helps. I'm not saying anybody out there, I'm not saying you have to do this, and I'm not saying that people who do this get special preference, but it does help when you send a picture of your cat along with your email.
Did. I was like, he likes cat. I'm just gonna put a picture of my cat in my email. Maybe he'll be like, I wasn't her on the show, but here's a picture of her cat. So she's on.
Well, it's very smart. It helps for a lot of reasons, and not only because it's a cute cat and it just harnesses me emotionally, but also the email comes in and there's a little paperclip, which means there's an attachment on the email, which is even more interesting. Mm-hmm. And so, anyways, those are some ways. Those are some candid tips on how to make it through the deluge of emails that comes into the email box. There's a little tip for everybody. And if you've sent an email asking to be on the show, you are on the list. I'm making my way down the list. You will eventually get a reply, and you will eventually get on the show. And just to give a little hope to people who have sent an email and have not heard back. Okay. Now that I have spent 5 minutes explaining myself and defending myself against nobody, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was such a pleasure. Your story is such a blessing to me, and I know that people out there are going to be so blessed by it. You have so much insight into what this really is. I mean, into a couple of different areas that is quite mysterious to a lot of regular people like me. And so I thank you for shedding some light on those things.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to let you go now. I'm sure it's like, I was going to say it's maybe like 4 a.m. or something over there. But really, the thought in my mind is that you are in some like sixth dimension time zone that like has a time called like blorp o'clock that I don't even understand.
No.
And that's where you are. So thank you for being patient. And you have a wonderful rest of your night, and we'll get in contact again.
Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Carolina. Because, you know what I'm going to say, I sure did. Now, make sure to go to youtube.com and check out Cristiano Intelectual. That's Cristianointellectual. That was harder than I thought to spell. But Cristiano Intelectual. They got all sorts of videos up there. They're doing a great work, and especially for you Spanish speakers. I imagine that will be especially rewarding. But we're all very proud of Carolina and what she's up to, spreading the good word. What an interesting story. Oh my goodness, God is so good, working so fast, getting it done. So there you go. Hey, if you want to come on the show, you can go ahead and send me an email at basil.rosewater@gmail.com or thejoyspiracytheory@gmail.com. They are both equally difficult to spell, so I'm gonna just let you find that out. I'll probably put it in the show notes. Or you can head to thejoyspiracytheory.com and leave a voicemail message like Carolina did with the little tab on the right that pops out. You just click that. It's very easy. Works on desktop, works on everything else. Hey, for those of you who are Patreon supporters, thank you guys so much, and I've got some very fun stuff coming your way. And for those of you who have not yet supported the program, I understand. We've been going on for a while. The episodes are free. I will say they're not free for me, but they're free for you, which is an awesome deal. But if this seems like a ministry that you want to support, you can head to patreon.com/thejoyspiracytheory. I'm sure if I made that link easier, maybe I'd get more Patreon supporters, but that's okay. You got to earn it. Patreon.com/thejoyspiracytheory, and check out all sorts of cool rewards we got going on there. Okay, make sure to go to iTunes. This is super important. I know there's those of you who have not done this yet, and this is your calling. This is it right now. Go to iTunes or whatever podcatcher you use and leave a rating and a review. A rating is 1 to 5 stars. 1 star is boo. 5 stars is yay. And then a review is just typing in boo or yay. So go do that. All right, catch you next time on the Joyspiracy Theory. Be cool.
Hey Basil, this is Montgomery Jones, Texas Ranger, and I'm hot on the trail of a crazy Russian scientist bent on destruction of the Earth. Now my sources tell me that he recently contacted you about some doohickey contraption he's going to use to move around the moon. Well, you don't worry about that, because I'm going to stop him. I'm hot on his trail, and he ain't going to escape me. Now, I've been after him for some time, and he's been pretty elusive, but don't you worry, that ball of cheese up in the sky is going to be all right, because Montgomery Jones is hot on his trail. And you know what I got to help me? I got the power of joy. Yeehaw!